Hey, welcome to the 98% podcast where we hear real stories from real people. And I am here with John. So, John, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Um, okay. I am a pretty normal 40-year-old Midwestern guy. Um, I think I think Ricky, we're gonna like you're gonna find the interesting parts of me, but I think I'm pretty average. like I'm a pretty normal-ish guy, so I'm glad this is like real people because I think I'm pretty real. So
Yeah, I
yeah,
appreciate that. Yeah, we all are
I guess
to a
that's true.
certain extent,
That's
right?
probably true. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So how do you know me?
So we work together, Ricky. We've worked together for like, I don't know, like 6 months or so. So I don't know you super duper well. But I don't know, we've got together, or got to know you a little bit. You've made me do like push-ups and stuff,
Oh yeah,
at work, some of that stuff. So I feel like we bonded in some of that. It wasn't push-ups. I had to stand on one foot to see how long I could stand on one foot.
yeah.
So,
And you didn't even win that competition. What
yeah.
happened, John?
I don't know. I thought I did pretty good.
You did.
like, it's, I don't know, it's not something I practice every day. So I
That's
apologize.
fair.
Yeah.
That's fair.
So,
Yeah. And then Ryan, he was the one who won that one. I remember he was a
yeah.
skater guy, so
hmm
not surprised. And he's been on the podcast, so that's
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so like, so Ryan and I work together. We work with you. Ryan is like a video guy. I'm a video guy, so I work in marketing stuff. I do graphic design. I do photography. I do videography, that sort of stuff. So that's kind of how we connect, I guess, in that regard. So
Yeah. Yeah. I think we met, I think it was my second week was when I went up on the hill with you guys and watched you guys
yeah.
film all that footage.
hmm
And I just sat there in the corner just taking notes, like, man, this is this is a lot of info.
Yeah. What were you getting into? That's the thing. You're like, oh
Yeah.
man, okay. So
Dude,
yeah.
I liked it. I appreciated getting like that second week of just like, here's all the products, boom, and then just like
hmm
watch them apply and be like, okay, cool.
Well, and it's strange because I suppose like I'm probably at this point in my life where like I'm like the old hand that like I don't know. I feel like I have all this knowledge to impart to you, Ricky. So
Yes.
yeah, that's what I'll do.
No, yeah, you totally do. I was thinking about that. Like, yeah, you and Ryan both were super knowledgeable. I just remember that week being like, he was just like, yeah, should we do this? Let's apply this here. And I'm just like, dude, these
hmm
guys know what they're talking about. They're not just video, and they're like, you guys know the stuff, and it was pretty cool.
Well, and I don't know if you talk about like on your show like your previous job, like that seemed like a cool job. Seemed like like it's cool stuff, and then like our company is not in the realm of cool too much. So like I'm glad that we could impress you and that sort of thing because I don't know.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think it's kind of cool. I guess I got to bring cool with me,
Yeah, no,
which is why I have everybody doing planks and push-ups and all
it's
types
true.
of
Yeah.
stuff.
Well, and like a physical, like I'm not surprised that like Ricky works. I don't know. You work your like, okay, let's get a physical, strength routine into this, like stuffy meeting. And that's what we were at. We were at a stuffy meeting, and you're working like, all right, let's see who can do these strength exercises. So
Exactly, exactly. The best part about that whole thing was that I got a little bit of pushback on that. Like, dude, I don't know if this is the audience for
beforehand,
that. Yeah, I was like,
oh
I don't know if this
yeah,
is the audience for that. I don't know. Maybe we should. And I'm just like, just trust me. Let's do it.
yeah, mhm,
And that was the big takeaway from that meeting. Is
yeah.
like, dude, we love just doing all those activities and all that stuff. And I'm like, yeah, that was
Is
pretty
it
cool.
is it the kind of thing where, and you probably do this, like people, especially like, so we're in construction, so it's like construction guy. It's a lot of dudes. It's a lot of masculinity in that room, that sort of thing. But people like sort of being out of their comfort zone a little bit, and
Mhm.
like they don't want to get out of their comfort zone until they have to get out of their comfort zone. Like, oh, okay, that was kind of fun. So yeah,
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. And it's funny that my whole presentation was on embracing change. And that was
yeah.
like the,
Well, that's the other thing.
the
Is like
it's change.
like You're like, how do you know me? You're like, well, I think you made me talk about my personal feelings in front of a group of people. So,
Dude,
and now here
everybody
we are,
did.
and now we're doing this.
Everybody did. That was the best. It's funny because we're like talking about change and loss. Have you guys ever experienced loss? I mean, people talk about their dogs passing and like
Yeah,
just all this stuff. Like, dude, this is great.
yeah,
I love
yeah.
that.
It's fun. So it's been fun, Ricky, so far.
For sure. No, I totally agree.
Hmm.
So, okay, so how this works is I gave you the questions ahead of time, and I'm just going to go
Uh
through the
huh.
entire list. It
Okay.
might be in a different order than what we planned. I don't know, whatever. But yeah, the goal is just for you to answer the questions and hopefully connect with the audience in in a fun way.
Sure.
So
Yeah.
yeah, so we'll
Hit me.
start from the beginning. So what was growing up like for you?
So, um, so I grew up in a super small town in the middle of Nebraska. Um, it's strange because I don't really see myself as like a small towny, sort of person. Um, I like city stuff, but like I grew up in a town. There's 250 people in my town. I my graduating class in high school was 9 people. So like,
Wow.
yeah, I know. I've never met any, like, you meet people, and you're like, oh, I grew up in a small town, like, oh, I grew up in a small town too, or whatever. And I talk to people. I've never met anybody that can out small town me. Like, I've got the smallest one, I swear. There's not a stoplight within a 60-mile radius of where I grew up. So middle of
Wow.
Nebraska, like, I go back there now, and it's beautiful. It's like sort of in the middle of the sand hills, which is just kind of this rolling country. It's beautiful there. Like, growing up there was kind of like probably boring. Like, there wasn't a ton going on, and so it was kind of a different um different time growing up, I guess. But I don't know. I feel like, so like in the summer times, in high school, and junior high, I would go to my grandparents' farm and help them out work on their farm over the summer times. And I feel like that, like, I don't know. I think that made an impression on me. Like, I'm a pretty sort of diligent worker. I think I work pretty hard, and I assume that that's probably where it came from, doing stuff like that. So, yeah, that was kind of growing up for me. I've like had a good childhood. Like, we did fun stuff with my parents. Like, I had a really good support structure, all the way through that. Always have, really. And so, like, it was kind of a, I don't know, small town life, but a lot of family stuff, a lot of those sort of things, and um, yeah, that was kind of growing up for me.
Yeah. Do you ever miss the physical labor?
I kind of, I mean, I don't now. Like, I do physical stuff now.
Hmm.
Um, I have daydreams of what I want to do when I get older, and sometimes it's like I'm not like handy or good at doing anything like that, but I'm thinking, like, what if I would build something or do something like that? Would be fun. Like, so I kind
Hmm.
of think about that stuff. I don't have really much interest in farming or growing things. I'm not really good at that. But I do like, like, I think probably it's part of, like, like, my existence now is all like, I mean, I go to work and I sit at my computer for 8 hours and I do stuff, and then, and so I think about, like, what would I, like, it would be cool to do something and, like, build something or something like that. I don't know what I'd build. I don't know how crappy it would be when I'd be done with it, but I think about stuff like that, like building physical things in that regard, like doing physical stuff like that sounds, I don't know, interesting
Yeah.
to me. So,
That's neat. Yeah. See,
yeah.
I did construction work growing up,
Oh,
like
yeah.
for most of my life. So my dad, he still owns a concrete construction business.
Oh,
So
cool.
I just remember summers just always like working out there and just lifting
Mhm.
forms and doing all
Yeah.
the concrete stuff. And I hated it back then when I was young.
Yeah.
And then now, like, I'm sitting in front of the computer. I'm just like, sometimes I get that itch where I'm just like, I just want to
Yeah.
like pick up some heavy stuff and just
Mhm.
walk around and just be like enough thought because we think all the time, like, let's do some mindless work per se. Let's just
Yeah.
like pick things up and be
Well,
physical. It's weird.
and I don't know if you've ever done any, like, home renovation or things like that. Like I haven't done a lot of it, but the stuff that I've done, like when you sort of like remake a space or do something like that, where it's like it's a project and it's a thing, and afterwards you've got something that you can like look at. You know, you can physically see
Mhm.
it, you can live in it, that sort of thing. That's pretty cool. Like that's like a different sort of experience than like sitting in front of a computer. And like what I do is I sit in front of a computer and move pixels around all day. That's what I do. So
Oh man.
yeah, I don't know. That's where I think like maybe growing up doing that stuff is like, I don't know. I don't think I have a sort of interest in doing that specific stuff, like I don't, animals or farming or things like that. But like, I don't know, doing stuff in an area sounds interesting to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And when you like rearrange stuff and you do all that, do you enjoy the process? Or you just enjoy the end result?
Um, I I don't know. Like I think like I I think I enjoy the process in retrospect. You know, like one of those like when you're either, you know, like let's say you're tearing something apart to build it back up new. Like I'm not good enough to be like I will tear this apart and I will know here's what the first step is and the second step and then I do this thing. Like I sort of tear it apart or whatever and then like okay, I don't know what to do next. And so then I try something and that doesn't work and then I try another thing and that
Yeah.
doesn't work. You know, and so it's not like a
Hmm.
smooth process. And so the process, maybe it's just like in my mind the process sounds interesting. And then you do the thing, and then in retrospect, you're like, okay, well, that process worked out eventually. Um, so I think I sort of idealized some of this stuff. Like, boy, wouldn't it be great to build something, or you know, when maybe like mid process, I'd be, you know, beating my head against the wall, like I can't do this, I can't fit this little part into this, so it's not gonna work. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Dude,
I don't
I
know.
feel like that too. The I know I don't enjoy the process.
Yeah, you just
I almost
know.
I almost never do. And I'm
Yeah.
trying like over the last few years I'm like, let's try to enjoy the process. But it's interesting. Like if I mean I work on projects and stuff all the time, like whether it be art projects or whatever, and it's
Mhm.
always I can't wait for it to be done. And I don't
Yeah.
mean to be in that mindset, but it's just like it's the end result that I
Well,
care about when it comes to that stuff.
it's funny because like in my line of work, like my profession is a lot of um you know, like think like graphic design and that sort of thing.
Uh-huh.
Like I enjoy that part of the project, like you know, like trying stuff out, and a lot of that is it's a different process in the sense of like, oh, I tried this thing and that didn't work at all, so I've got to try a completely different way of doing it. You know, like I was I was thinking about doing it this way with whatever. I'm using this image as a base, and we're gonna build off of that. And then that didn't work at all. So I'm gonna try this to illustrate this thing, and like that was even worse. And so I could do this other thing. And so
Huh.
but like that part is a little bit more enjoyable to me because maybe I understand it well now. You know, like I've been doing it for 15 so years or so, so I kind of understand it in that sense. But it's just trial and error and trial and error, and then I think I'm okay enough at my job that I eventually come to like, okay, I know what that is, and like I feel, you know, like I have, I don't know, a taste. I don't know if that's the right word, but like I know what looks good, and I can sort of figure my way through there. So I enjoy that part of the process. That's part of the
Yeah.
digital world that I do enjoy. I guess I don't know.
Makes sense. See,
Yeah.
I'm an experimenter like that too. It sounds like we're similar like that. Like it's like you can tell me all day, like, or I could think all day on a process or something. But I just, I think about this actually. I was getting accredited in Strengths Finders over the past week, and the funny thing is like I'm there and I'm paying attention for like the first couple hours. Then after a while, I'm just like, I just want to do the thing and
Mhm.
figure it out.
Yeah.
Like I don't know. Like it's like I don't know, experimentation, I guess. It's like I'd rather learn on the job rather than try to remember everything you're telling me in order
Yeah.
to implement it. It's
Well,
interesting.
and I don't know if you do this, like in meetings and stuff. I'll have meetings with people, and we'll talk about things, about how to do things. And a lot of times, my takeaway is like, okay, I think I'm at the point where I just need to noodle on this for a while, and like that's my
Exactly.
sort of
Yep.
modus operandi. Like, okay, I have what I need. I need to kind of go, throw some spaghetti against the wall, and see where
Yeah.
it comes out of. So, yeah.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. Yeah, same way. Especially if it's like a project or something like that we need to figure out. It's like, okay, let me, sit with it, mess with it a little bit, see what I can come up with, and
Mm-hmm.
then, I'll meet back with you. But
Yeah.
what's interesting on the and flip side though is like if it's solving a problem, especially like a personal issue, I could be present the whole entire time and love it. So like if you
Yeah.
came up to me and were like, "Hey Ricky, I need your help. Like I'm kind of struggling with something." I'd be like, "Okay, tell me what's going on." And then you'd
Yeah.
be like, yeah, so, I'm going through this tough time relationally and I don't know, like, and I'm like, oh, let's talk about this. I don't know what it is. It's
Yeah.
like anything that deals with like psychology or intellectual
Mm.
conversations or whatever just is so stimulating that like we could
Is
talk all
that
day about that.
is that with yourself or with other people? Like, do you do that when you're like in a tough time? You're like, oh yeah, let me work through it. I love this. Let's,
Let me, yeah, bring it on. Bring
yeah.
it. No, I don't know actually. Let me think about this. So I know I do like to solve problems. I'm a big solutions guy. So like, yeah, if I'm struggling with something, I like to try to find some type of solution. So for me, yeah, it was like learning from other people. So then when I get that knowledge, it's like I like to help people in that regard. It's like it's an interesting passion thing that I have. I think, which I think most things do, is I think a lot of people's passions stem from potential struggles, that we
Yeah.
may have had in the past, right? And it's like, man, I went through this and it sucks. So I want to help everybody so they don't have to go through it. And I'm sure
Mm-hmm.
like, I don't know if you're like that with any projects or anything you work on, but I know like it makes sense. Like, oh, like I didn't get this and I, and so I want to make sure that you get this because I didn't
Yeah.
type thing. I don't know.
The only the only I think I do that in a certain way, but I think it's hard for me to figure out how I got to certain outcomes or whatever. Like if I'm
Mm,
good at X, I don't know if I could tell you how I got to being good at that. Like
yeah.
I I don't know, this is like maybe I'll connect this to the point, Ricky. We'll see. But like I help with my kids. Like I coach my kids like t-ball or not t-ball, but little league baseball sort of stuff. And I don't think I'm like have like the arc. Like oh I'm crafting this arc of they're gonna start it here and they're gonna be good and then like I'm just trying to figure it out as I go and then like hopefully at the end of it we figure some things out about baseball or whatever. And I think like with sort of professional stuff, like I think I'm good at certain things and I really don't know how I got good at those. And
Mm,
maybe it's all in my head. Maybe I'm not that great, but like I don't know if there's like a like in terms of like what you're talking about, like talking people through stuff and helping people through stuff. Like I don't know how that works in some regards. Because I'm like I don't know. I just like this, and I don't know. I don't know how like taking this photograph. I don't know if I could say here's what this how I got to this point to take this photograph well or whatever. I think
gotcha.
there's focus. Like I think about focus and that sort of thing. Like oh, I
Mhm.
try and focus on these things, and maybe that's what makes me good. But I don't know. Some of that stuff is real. I don't know, hard to pin down. I think for at least in the sort of creative world that I work in most days. I guess.
No, that makes sense. So just curious, so this might sound random, but
Yeah.
it's hopefully not. So do you remember what your strength finders are?
Um, No, not off the top of my head. Do you want
Okay.
me to find it? I mean, I can find it if I need to.
Oh, I mean, it's up to you. I was just thinking because obviously I just got accredited in that, and I was curious if you had strategic in your top five.
I don't know.
I don't know
Yeah.
either.
Um, I don't know. I think
Uh,
I don't know. I think there's a chance. I don't know for sure, but I remember thinking that like it was like um a problem solving type thing, but not like but in like a creative sort of
yeah,
way. I don't remember what it was called, but I think it was like that sort of like I don't know, thinking outside the box. I don't know. It would be something like that, is what I
yeah.
think.
Yeah, I'm curious. Yeah, we'll have to look that up sometime. But the reason why I said that is so I lead with strategy, so strategic in my strength finders, and that was one of the things they said about it. Is they're like when you lead with that, they said that you tend to you tend to come up with solutions and stuff, but you don't really necessarily know how you get there. So you have to learn how to
Hmm.
communicate it or how to
Yeah.
take notes because a lot of people are just like, okay, cool. Now, how did you get there?
Yeah. What?
You're like, I
Yeah.
was just, wait, you're not following? You don't understand like how I'm putting all this stuff together?
Yeah. I mean, I think I'm a, like I think I try and solve problems. I think you're right that like communicating a problem is like that's like half the like that's like a big part
Yeah.
of solving the problem is like figuring it out and being able to like distill it down into something that can be communicated. Um, so I don't know. I think like especially in sort of the world that I live in, where we're like advertising and like trying to come up with ways to talk about a specific product or a specific process or those sort of things. Like I don't know. It's very subjective. It's subjective and it's kind of I want to say like off the wall in terms of like sometimes like that's off the wall. That's really great. I was never expecting that. And then sometimes it's I was never like that's a little too off the wall. And I wasn't expecting that, and I don't think I want to expect that because it's a little bit further out there. Like it's sort of
Yeah.
like I don't know. Like sometimes it's just kind of like yeah that works, and no that doesn't work. I think about that with like music. Like I'm a big music that's a big part of like uh I don't know, my creative side. It's like I don't play music or do anything with music other than just like appreciate it. And I think like sometimes things just like they just connect. Like I don't know
Yeah.
what it is, but it just connects. And I think there's something
Hmm.
with regard to like like I don't know what it is, but it just hits. And I think with like creativity and the stuff that I do, like I'm not sure what that is, but man, that was good. Or like
Yes.
putting something
I
together and
agree.
you're like I don't know what that is, but I love it. So
Yeah.
yeah.
That's interesting. Yeah. I think that is a creative trait just in general. I think it's funny because you say music, which I didn't even know you were. It's funny. I don't think like, what type of music do you even listen to? I don't think I ever asked.
Oh, like uh, like a lot of stuff that I listen to is like independent, like indie rocks. Like I grew up. I sort of came of age musically. Like in college, we go to these indie rock shows, and I was like I told you, like I grew up in a small town. I didn't know these things
Uh-huh.
existed. Like
Exactly.
it was a small town before the internet too. So it was like we didn't have any of this stuff. We didn't have MTV. We didn't have any of this stuff. So like I don't know, think of like Radiohead and those type of bands that are a little bit weird and so I don't know. I I just love that stuff. And like sometimes the weirder the better and sometimes the harder to understand. It's like I don't know what's going on here, but I really like it. Like that's the sort of stuff that sort of gets me going. But yeah. Does that
Yeah.
answer your question? I don't know.
Yeah. No, it totally does. Totally does. Yeah. So interesting. Yeah. Music in general. Do you play anything, by the way? Play any music instruments?
No. I fiddled with the guitar in college and realized I was not any good at it. So
Yeah. That's a good choice of words too. Fiddled with the guitar.
I yeah. I grew like I played in band. I don't know if you did like I played in band in high school. And evidently I faked it the whole time because I got to like actually like playing like a guitar and like I don't know what I'm doing here. I don't know, like like musically, I feel like tone deaf, but like I can appreciate it. I don't know what that means, but I feel like I can like I feel in my comfort zone when I'm listening to music and yeah,
Yeah.
thinking about it that way.
Yeah. It's interesting. Yeah. I played, obviously I played music, but I played
You were
about
in a
everything as
band,
far
weren't
as
you?
instruments go. Yeah. Yeah. I
Yeah.
played for 8 years. Then we took like a decade off and we're starting to get back together again.
Mm.
So the goal is to perform this year a couple times.
Yeah.
So,
Do you guitar?
sing and play guitar and I write the
Yeah.
songs. So
Mm.
it's,
Mm-hmm.
um, yes, it's fun. So it's kind of like a whole part of my emotional outlet, I guess you could say,
Oh yeah.
So it's a fun thing.
There was a don't hold this against me, Ricky. There was a period of time in college where like really sad singer-songwriter-y stuff
Hmm.
was like what me and my friends were into. And so
Yeah.
there's a period of where I was trying to do really sad singer-songwriter stuff, and it was really sad. Like
It's really sad.
it was not something to be proud of.
I love it.
So
It's funny. So, and it's funny because I'm getting into that stuff now too. So used to, because I've always listened to like metal music, but
yeah.
the heavier the music, and it wasn't from a space of like anger or anything like that, like some people might be listening to. I listened to it because I just felt like energy is what I felt when I listened to it.
Yeah.
Like I just feel a lot of energy. This
Mhm.
feels fun. This feels cool. This feels like that's what I was feeling. So when I used to listen to music, it was all from like an instrumental perspective. I paid no attention to what was said in
Oh
any of the
yeah.
songs.
Mhm.
So, which is funny because then when I started writing music, especially lyrics, like all my lyrics dealt with like perseverance and resilience and like stuff that's not the typical, I guess you could say metal at the time where it was like anger, F these people and stuff. And it's
So
like,
you just
nah, I
like
don't really want to
positive
say
outlook
that.
on things.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it was my optimism shining through, but like, you might talk about having a hard time. You're like, but you're gonna make it through, and
Yeah.
it's just like all this stuff.
Yeah.
But it's funny because did that, and then it's over just the past few years that I started shifting into like more of the sad realm where I'm like, man, like I'm just feeling like I want to hear sad stuff. So
I
it's
I
weird.
and I don't know what, like, this goes back to like I don't know why, I don't know, like some of that stuff, because like I there is sad music, like especially the stuff that I listened to growing up, which I still listen to some, but like it was really sad sack radio, like just but like I wasn't depressed when I was listening to that stuff, like
Mm,
um it's like, I don't know what it is, but it's the kind of thing where like you're in touch with that part of you or whatever, and that makes you feel better. Like that makes like the sad music makes you feel happier. I don't know. Like it's that sort of
yeah.
thing. I don't think I was ever like a down, like downer type of guy. But I like that music made me feel good, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, it's interesting.
So, hmm
It's a music's interesting. It's like a universal language. It's weird. Like everybody knows it and it does stuff to your body. I was listening to this podcast and they talked about the effects it has on your body. Like they test it with infants, like babies, and they're
mm.
playing music. And it's funny, they play certain styles of music and the babies move their body a little differently. And you're like, why are they
Yeah.
doing that? Why are they doing that?
hmm
And it just kind of like puts this thing in motion. Like, wait, so we move and dance to music and it makes no logical sense, but
Yeah.
it's because of the beat and the way things roll. And it's like, whoa. And to your point, you mentioned sadness. They were talking about when you feel sad, they're like, you should listen to sad music because it makes you
Yeah.
feel better. And
hmm
it's like, wait, what? You'd
Yeah.
think,
Like it reverses.
logically,
Yeah.
yeah, logically, you'd think, oh, if you're sad, listen to happy, upbeat music. And it's like, no, actually,
hmm
you'll feel better if you listen to sad music. So it's really such an interesting thing.
Well, and I don't know if you've thought about this before, Ricky. So I think I'm a bit older than you. So I'm 43, and so I'm in the time of my music life where, like, you know, my friends and stuff that we used to go to shows, um, and listen to music, and like there was sort of a core group of us where like that was how we connected with each other, and that's how we connected, like with the world outside. We go to shows
Yeah.
and talk about music, and anyway, and so now we're at the point where like we're seeing these bands, and these bands are either non-existent anymore, or they're like us, they're like 45-year-old, 50-year-old guys, like, let's have a reunion, and play these, or do those sort of things, or like 20th anniversary stuff. And it's strange because like, I don't know, it's just a strange, I, I'm trying to figure out, Ricky, I'm really trying to figure out why it is that I think that young people are better at music. And I don't think it's just like that's the music that I listened to when I was young. Like I don't know, like even the music that I listened to when I was younger, done by people that were younger. Like I don't like the music that the older people, that the bands put out when they're older. They're older, they're wiser, they know more stuff, and they put out music, and I'm like, I don't like it. Like they're probably better at their instruments. They're better producing their
Uh-huh.
stuff, and then I'm like, no thanks. I like the stuff that you did before. Like it's just fascinating to me, like how it's just such a young person's game, and I don't know why, but I can't
Uh-huh.
get over the fact that I just like it's I don't know. And what I have sort of tried to think about is like you were talking about like a energy. Like there's like an energy and a youthfulness and a I don't know, urgency, maybe is the right word. Like with some of that stuff that I just don't get in my life anymore. Like that
Yeah.
is not part of stuff anymore. So as a an old dude, I don't I like it's just a different sort of thing. But when you're younger, it's like there was urgency and stuff, and there was
Uh-huh.
and so like music is different that way. So anyway, I like that whole thing is just like it's a weird. I'm in a weird spot musically as far as like being a older guy trying to
Yeah.
connect with young people's music.
Yeah. Well, I think there's a few things there that I think is really fascinating that I like to dive into. Is I think one, I think music evolves like anything else, and I think that's the interesting thing to think about is like a lot of these newer bands are just building off what came before them, you know? So it makes sense to me that that might be why we resonate more with it. But then
Yeah.
also there's not, I think when you talk to people, usually what they listen to, if you talk to anybody, it's like, what are you into? It's usually
Mhm.
like the bands they listened to when they were in high school.
Yeah.
And a
Yeah.
lot of times I think the reason being is because I think at that time, I think that's when we go through, I think, such emotional shifts, like trying to figure out
Uh
who we
huh.
are. And I think somehow we all connect to music. And that's why there's like a nostalgia factor there. So like you listen to these bands, and you're like, man, that album back in 2000 was the
Yeah.
best.
Yeah.
And they're still making music, but you're like, yeah, but it's not the same. It's not the same. And I wonder if it's an emotional connection thing that we
Well,
just don't have now.
I think it is. I think there's like so one of the things that you said like I do I think there's something about like the formative years of your life when you were like whatever. Like for me it was like oh I'm kind of finding myself. Like if we go back to
Uh-huh.
like I grew up in this small town and then for me it was when I went to university that it was like meeting new people and finding out all this cool stuff. I'm learning new things and I'm kind of figuring out who I think I am, right? And so that was
Uh-huh.
when I started to sort of really attach myself to some of that music stuff. And that's where for me like that's what you were talking about, like I try really hard not to be the guy who just listens to the stuff that
Uh-huh.
like when I was in high school and college, like I really try not to, but it's just such a pull. Like it just like I don't know what it is, but like you're just like I'm just drawn to that stuff. For me, it was like mid college is when I was like that stuff was just like I I I listen to new stuff and there's some new stuff that I really like and I try to always keep myself open to
Uh-huh.
new things, but there's always a pull to that stuff and I think it's just like that's when I was, like coming of age, I guess. I don't know. It's like a like a some sort of I don't know, 70s high school movie, like I don't know. Like days it's
Yeah.
like our Dazed and Confused. Like my Dazed and Confused is whatever 2003.
Yeah. Oh man, it's funny. I look back at some of those songs too, and if I actually take kind of the nostalgia out of it, if that's possible, I feel like if I
Mhm.
listen to music for what it was, it actually a lot of it isn't as good as I remember either. I've noticed that. I don't know if you've fallen
Yeah.
into that,
Oh
but I'll listen
yeah.
to some of those songs and I'm like, I have Spotify, so I'll put stuff on Spotify and I'm listening and like, oh man, I picked this song because I like it, but I actually don't really like it. I never
Yeah.
listened to it,
Well,
and yeah.
and I like will do. I don't know if you do this. I will um like I so for me stuff that I listened to in like high school and stuff like that. I kind
Uh-huh.
of have moved on from that stuff.
Yeah.
And I don't really listen to it for enjoyment per se.
Uh-huh.
But I can totally like put it on. Like I'll do this when I'm driving. Like a lot of times when like I have to drive, to like our work, and I'll have like a 4 hour drive ahead of me. And if sometimes I'll do that at night. And there are times when it's like it's midnight, I'm driving down the road, it's just me for another hour or whatever, and I'll put on like a playlist of like really nostalgic stuff, like high school type
Uh-huh.
stuff, and it's weird. I'll listen to it and I'll just like it'll just trigger some nostalgia thing. And it's
Uh-huh.
like I'm not listening to it for like enjoyment of the music. I'm
Yeah.
listening to for like the period of time to put myself back in that period of time. If that makes any sense, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so like yeah, it's a strange thing. And then like there are other times in my life where I'll put on music that's of a completely different part of my life and just like to feel like that part of my life. I don't know. It's so
Yeah.
like it's interesting how like it's just really I don't know. It's tied like it just ties you right to that emotional core or whatever. Like just connects you to that live wire and just I don't know. That's what's so great about it.
Yeah. See, that's how I am with any 90s pop or techno
Oh
music.
yeah.
I don't know what it is. I like the techno music and the pop at one point in my life, but like if you'd ask me like, nah, I don't really like that stuff. But it's like for some reason when it comes on, I'm just like, man, they knew how to do stuff in the 90s, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
You
I
know?
will I was like in high school. I was like a I don't know what you call it, like a hopeless romantic high school kid or whatever, like I would listen to like Third Eye Blind and like Matchbox 20 and just be like, oh
Uh,
man, thinking like, man, really trying to figure out, like I didn't know what the heck was going on. like, so like that's my sort of nostalgic, I'll put on stuff like that and like, oh man, I was a dumb high school kid that didn't know, like, I don't know, trying to find girls. That was my big struggle, I don't know.
dude, that was every boy's struggle.
Well, and like I'm sure like the stuff that I now like really like and really connect with is probably just the same sort of thing, but just different. It's probably like trying to find a girl, but a different sort of take on it and those sort of things. But I don't know.
Exactly. Exactly. Does it ever weird you
Mm.
out that there's some people that are like, no, I don't really listen to music. Like, is that not weird to you? 'Cause especially considering like we've just talked about the connection we have with it. I'm like, how can
Yeah,
you not?
I mean, I don't know. I think I found out that people have different relationships to music. Like
Yeah.
in terms of what they want to get out of it. I don't know if that makes any sense. Like
Huh?
like my wife will put on music and I think she just wants to have music around or whatever. And I put on music and it's it's sad whatever it is. Like that's not fun to just
Yeah,
have around, like so I think it's just different, sort of I don't know. They put it in their brain in a different spot, and I think I have like a legitimate like physical trouble having music on and not like paying attention to it.
yeah.
Like I don't know. Like if if there's a I don't know my wife will just turn on music and sometimes it's like whatever radio station is like one button away. Like I just want to press one button and music comes on and I'm just like
Uh-huh.
I'm not like I need to go pick something out that I am in the mood to hear right now or whatever.
Yes.
And so she'll put on something and it'll be like 90s like boy band stuff or whatever. And like we'll be talking I'm like I can't pay attention to any like there's that stuff going on and it's in my house and I don't know what to do, and so yeah, it's hard for me.
Yeah. I'm the same
So
way.
I
Like
can't like
music.
turn it off. I
Yeah.
can't like
Yeah.
just block it out.
I'm the same way. My music, when I put music on, it's very intentional. So yeah, when people just put it on and just have it play in the background, I'm like, I couldn't do that. Like if I
Mhm.
put music on in the background, what I'm really doing is I'm putting music on because I want you to listen to it,
Mhm.
you know,
Yeah.
and then I want your perspective on it, and then I want
Yeah.
to tell you why this song's awesome. Like just to put it
Well,
on, just to put it on is weird.
and here's the other thing that I found. If you want to move off this topic, you sure can because I could probably bore people with my talking music, but like I how do I want to put it? Like I don't know. Like you were talking about like putting music on for other people and hearing
Hmm.
like I try, especially as I get a little bit older, I try not to be too critical of music, but I can't
Hmm.
like fully turn that off in my mind.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Like I'm really interested in stuff that I don't understand. Like I don't know, like I try and listen to like jazz and I try and to listen to like classical stuff, and I don't think I fully understand those, but I like really, like I'll try and listen to and see, like what are the interesting parts of those things. Um, but like I don't know. I've had this experience, Ricky, where like some people have like, oh, I'm really interested in this. What do you think? And I can't, like sometimes like I didn't like it. Like
Yeah, yeah.
like I can't turn off that like I'm an a-hole for music, and I can't just turn it off and like,
Uh,
oh, that's nice. like I'm just like, well, it's a little bit derivative, and here's why I think so. Here's 4 points in my, like I don't know. I'm just
yeah,
kind of like that guy. So
yeah.
I think that's part of like I don't know how my brain works when it comes to music. Like
Uh,
that's how I think about it. And I think people, some people don't think of it that way. Like, oh, it makes me feel good, or whatever, which is
uh,
totally fine.
yeah.
But I'm just like, oh, let me think about this a couple more, like I don't know, and let me dig a little deeper into it and see if I can find reasons not to like it.
It's funny that you
That's
say
why I'm
that.
great to have around,
Yeah.
Ricky. That's why I'm great to have
Hey,
around.
dude, I do the same thing. That's what I'm saying though. I'm super critical. I've gotten better because I
Yeah.
just keep my mouth shut. But man, when I look back at like my high school when I first got into
Yeah.
music, and I was critical of everything music.
Mhm.
Like if I didn't like it, I was like, this is terrible.
Yeah.
And
And
yeah, it's weird.
that's how I am.
Yeah.
And I've tried to, I don't know if you feel like you talked about high school, like I feel like I have gotten better at that and understood. I think people come from different
Yep.
perspectives and different stuff. And so I think I've gotten better at it, but I haven't cured myself of it. I don't know if you've
Yeah.
gotten better at it or,
I've gotten better at it. It's funny, over the last few years, I've gotten better at it. I've gotten better at not being critical. There's still groups I don't like,
yeah.
and I won't listen to them. And there's a few groups that I'll say like, yeah, I'm not a fan of them.
Mhm.
It's obviously comes from a much more
Yeah.
pleasant place rather than what it was. But also one thing that's interesting too is I'm less envious. I used to get really envious of watching people perform, and it's really weird. I
Hmm.
just noticed that,
Like,
like not so much like, yeah. So you talked about going to concerts all the
mhm.
time. I'd go to concerts, but I didn't go to many concerts, and because it was a love hate relationship. When I would go
Oh,
there,
you want to
I
be
would be
up there.
upset because I'm not there. I'm not up
Hmm.
there right now. So, but then I'd like the music, so it was really interesting. So I used to. That's why I didn't go to as many concerts as I could have. So why, like,
Hmm.
this year especially, I'm like, I'm gonna go to at least 4 or 5 concerts this year and enjoy it. Yeah, it's such a weird thing to have, but I know envy's an interesting thing though. It's an emotion that tells us like you're not doing something that you should be doing, essentially, right? And I
Hmm.
think that's what
Yeah.
it was telling me, is it's like, I see these people playing at church, for instance, or something, like playing the drums, and I'm just like, man, I want to play the drums. And I'm getting upset, but it's actually like, that's good. It's telling you that, hey, listen to what's going on. Like, you need to do something, unless you're just going to let it go. So you have to decide, like, do you want to let that go, or do
Mhm.
you want to just actually do it, pursue it then, if that's what you're into?
Yeah.
It's interesting.
I've never thought of envy that way, but that makes total sense. Like, I always thought about it. So when I went to university, I studied like film and media
Hmm.
and those sort of things. And so it was like, I thought I was an artistic guy or whatever at the time. And I would, whatever, we'd make these, student films or those sort of things, which are like artsy and those sort of things. And then you do that and you create that sort of art, right? And then what
Yeah.
you were talking about, like then, and I was really into music at the time as well, and so I'd do my stuff and then go and watch these bands play, and like they would do their art, and like people would yell back at them that they love, like it's like
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
completely different thing. So I totally get it, to where you're like, oh, that's a great that they're able to do their thing and get an immediate reaction from it, and like that's, I don't know, that's like a, I don't know. I wouldn't say, I don't know if envy is the right word,
Yeah.
because I don't think I'd be good good at like a musician type thing. But like it is a little bit of like understanding like, oh, there's different reasons for doing things and different
Hmm.
reactions to stuff. Like stuff that you do now and stuff that I do now for my job. Like
Hmm.
I feel like it's creative. I feel like it's
Yeah.
worthwhile type stuff, but I don't put it out there and then have a room full of people say, stand up and clap and yell and scream that they love it. So,
Exactly.
yeah.
Yeah. It's interesting. Yeah. But, yeah, it's when I think about that too, just envy in general was just an example, but it's funny. I think a lot of our negative emotions, they have positive things behind them. When I think about that, like anger, it's like anger, you could perceive that as a bad emotion, but actually what it's doing, like anger is one of the few emotions that is an active emotion. It makes you want to do something, right?
Hmm.
So you can use anger actually to get stuff done, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Do you do
so
that,
it's
Ricky? Or
interesting.
you seem to understand the stuff so well that you should be able to do that. I've never
Just
thought
being
about
able,
that. Just like,
be
oh,
able to what?
like man, I'm really having a hard time, whatever,
Uh-huh.
cleaning the gutters. I better get pissed first and get angry at it, and then I'll be able to do it.
That just happens naturally. No one ever knows I'm angry because it's just like I'm putting this into my action right now.
Yeah.
I'm not going to yell at anybody. I'm not going to curse. I'm not going to say anything. I'm just going to really get this done
Hmm.
fast
I'm gonna get
and well.
these gutters are gonna know who's boss.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's funny. Yeah. It's interesting. I've been learning that. It's fascinating. I've read that in like some different books, psychology books, I think, and stuff. And it's just a fascinating way to think about it. Cause I don't know if you were that way, but I've always thought that you always think, well, negative emotions are bad. You
Yeah.
shouldn't have them. Good emotions are what you want to have, but it's like, but negative emotions are clearly normal. We have them for a reason.
Hmm.
So what are they doing and what are they telling us? And it's kind of fascinating. I think the only one I don't necessarily find fun is like uh being depressed. I think that's the worst emotion
Yeah.
for me. Oh, I hate it because then what I want to do is I just want to like lay down and do nothing. You know what
Hmm.
I mean? So
Do
it's
you,
interesting.
maybe this is a weird question. Do you categorize your stuff that way? Like, you'd be like,
I
okay, I'm feeling this right now, and so therefore that, like I have never thought of like, okay, what am I feeling right now? I guess I don't know. I'm not
it's
good at that as far as my
yeah.
personality. Like, okay, so what does this mean?
Dude,
I don't
hey,
know.
it's helpful. It is
Yeah.
really helpful because before 3 years ago, I knew none of it, and I didn't know why I did what I did.
Yeah.
And I remember going to therapy for the first time. This was actually couples therapy. So this is after my divorce, but I went to couples therapy. I remember talking to a lady, and she's like, "What are you feeling right now?" I was like, "I don't know." And she's like, "Well, what do you mean you don't know?" I just don't know. And she's like, "Well, what emotions do you know?" And I was
Yeah.
like,
Uh-huh.
happy, mad, sad. And she's like, okay, keep going. I don't know. Are there any other ones?
Hungry.
She's
I'm
like,
hungry right
she's like,
now.
she's like, yeah. So I need you to, here's an emotion
Yeah.
wheel. I need you to take this
Oh.
home, study it. And, I didn't even study it, but the thing is, is over time, what's interesting is you get to learn that and you learn, and you're an experimenter like I am. So what would happen is I would usually learn after the fact, but even like the self-reflection piece of like, man, why does it feel so bad? It's like, oh, well, this is what was happening. Oh, you know what? I was feeling angry. Okay,
Hmm.
that makes sense. And enough of that to where like now I'm not, I still catch a lot of stuff after the fact, but it's actually really helpful to categorize it because then what it does is you take an objective approach. Then you see it for what it is rather than being caught up in it. And I think being caught up in
Hmm.
it is the problem, right? Like nothing's worse than when like
Yeah.
people have these big outbursts and it's like it's just because they don't know how to like they're angry and they don't know about it. They're just it's happening. But
Well, and
yeah.
what I think I do is I don't necessarily have an outburst. Like I'm like I'll just like I'm just close close up. I'm not gonna outburst. I'm just gonna inburst, and
Yeah.
I'm just gonna
Yeah.
sulk for a little while, and that's what I'm gonna deal with it. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
but
You
it's probably the
suppress.
same. I mean, I think like I think I'm more quiet.
Uh-huh.
Like when things are either difficult or like I think that's my sort of whatever defensive response. I guess is just like
Yeah.
I'm just gonna internalize it. I'm just gonna be quiet and I guess figure it out that way.
Yeah.
Um,
That's me too.
yeah.
And I relate with that. That was yeah. If something happens, it's not an external thing that happens. It's usually like internalize and think about it, but then I have to make sure that I don't suppress it. And if people used to ask me that all the time, they're like, you never get angry, you never do this. Like, where is all this going? Are you suppressing it? And I was like, I don't think so.
Yeah.
And to my knowledge, I still don't think I was, but I couldn't tell you if I was or wasn't. I just
See, and that's
It was
what.
interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think. See, I think my response is usually like a like I'll get quiet and it's an internalized response if it whatever it is. Um, but I don't think I like bottle things up. Like I don't think it's
Uh-huh.
um at least I don't know. I don't think maybe talk to people in my life and they think differently, but like you know like like that's usually my way of handling it versus my way of just like not handling it, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. So.
Yeah. And I think we also, I think our bodies know what to do with a lot of that stuff too. And I've listened to some stuff where they talk about that. They even said, even with trauma, they said like, if you can get out of your own way, like get out of your own head, your body can fix itself. And it's
Hmm.
really interesting to think about. And this was through like a IFS therapy book, which was really fascinating. But they talked about that. They said that's why, like, for instance, people talk about like, why do, oh, why am I drawing a blank right now? Basically, why do drugs help with that stuff sometimes?
Hmm.
Psychedelics, like
Oh.
why
Uh
does
huh.
that help? And they're like, oh, well, what it does is it calms the mind and all those things that are going on that are causing you to get in your way in the first place. It's like, well, that's interesting to think about. Um, but I don't know. Though I think you can figure it out. So when I was younger, my emotional outlet I think was music, and I didn't know it was, but I think that's how I ended up being okay through a lot of that stuff because clearly I knew nothing about emotions,
Yeah.
at all, and I'm sure things happen all the time, but I don't really remember bad things happening very often.
Hmm.
And I think it could just be for that reason. It's like when I was feeling down, I just play some music and whatever, and I'd feel better. And it's like, I think deep down, I think as long as we're not dwelling on it, I think our body kind of knows what to do.
Hmm. Yeah. I think. I I don't know for sure, but I think like perspective. Like I think I'm the kind of person like I don't know. I try and think things out and I try to like
Mhm.
analyze things and
Yeah.
intellectualize things and those sort of things. And I think like perspective, like I think reading books and acquiring knowledge, like that's the sort of stuff that I think helps me do stuff.
Yeah.
Even with like things that are unrelated. Like if there's I don't know, here's I'm gonna try and relate this, but like the kind of people who like are like there's things going on politically in the country, right, Ricky?
Uh-huh.
And
Yep.
people are upset about that, and I get that. But like people are like, oh man, it's just the kind of people that like would be like, I don't know, if people having kids, I don't know how you bring a kid into this world or whatever,
Uh-huh.
things like that. And I think to myself, like perspective wise, like I try and have this sort of like wider perspective of
Yep.
things, and it's not like I don't know. I think about like I don't know, 100 years ago, 200 years ago, 200, like thousands of years ago. Like what were people, what kind of lives were they living then? Like what would, you know, through human history, what have we,
Uh-huh.
been through? And it's not like it's all roses, like there's some
Yeah, yeah.
terrible stuff, but I think like having perspective on like, okay, I'm good. I don't got it so bad. Like going back
Uh-huh.
to like college stuff. Like I there's a girl I have girl problems or whatever, like not that big a deal. We have as a civilization have been through worse and we've made it through worse. And so like we were talking about like sad music and those sort of things. Like I think like history and like even like bad history, like things that were not great, whatever, and you know, I don't know, in I don't know, the Middle Ages or things like that. Like that
Uh-huh.
stuff helps me, like reading bad stuff that happened a long time ago makes me feel better because oh
Uh-huh.
man, oof, that was, we've been through some stuff, like I feel like that
Yeah.
gives me perspective on things that are like, all right, my puny little problems are not that big a deal. So
Dude,
I'll
yeah.
I'll deal with it.
You're exactly right. I do the same thing. That's what's so funny is so it's funny. I didn't realize we had so much in
I
common. Like I knew
know
we had some
that's
stuff in common, but I didn't know we had this much. But yeah, that's the same exact thing. Like I've always same thing, took a big approach. That's why people are when people get upset about some things, like I used to not have empathy at all. And I still don't know if I have empathy, but I put myself in their shoes and I can understand logically what they're
yeah,
going through. But yeah, it's just one of those things like it's really not that bad if you take a step back and think about
yeah,
it. Or yeah, like we live in the most actually we live in a time in history where things are technically better than they've ever been by
yeah.
far. Right. In certain places, granted there are places in the world that still
Hmm.
are struggling, but like as far as like the US, like we have more than enough. We have plenty of food. We
Yeah,
have plenty of
I
everything at our
mean,
fingertips that we didn't have. Yeah,
this can be a good and a bad thing. Rick, we probably live in the most comfortable time in
exactly.
the
Uh-huh.
history of
Yep.
Earth,
Yep.
and comfort isn't everything, obviously. But yeah, like the ability to be happy might be higher than it's ever been. Not that, there aren't significant things to work through to get there, but like I think we have, like the ability to be happy is probably like higher now. But and even
Yeah.
like you talked about, like, I mean, we're really sort of fortunate to live where we live because there are places that people have it harder. Even, like some of that stuff is, pretty, like, I don't know, like even I think, some of the worst places on earth now are still probably pretty good than the,
Exactly. Yeah.
compared to, the all of human history. I'm
No, I
guessing. I'm
totally.
not like a like I feel like I've read a book and I've listened to some podcasts and I've done some things. I'm no
Yeah.
expert on this. This is just my
Yeah.
amateur take on it, just for the record.
Yeah. Well, I don't disagree. It's funny. Yeah. What is interesting though is you hit something important there. Like comfort is definitely has a it's bad. It has its cons too.
Yeah.
And I think it's because we're not as equipped as we maybe would have been to handle things. So when things do not go our way, we react as if it's a bigger deal than it is. Because
Yeah.
apparently, they say statistically speaking, we have more people suffering from anxiety and on anxiety medication than ever before in history by far. And you're like, well, hold on. Well, if this is like the best time we've lived in, why are so many people
Yeah.
struggling with anxiety? And a lot of it, I think, has to do with that. Is like things are so good. We don't
Yeah.
know. We don't know what to do. A lot of people also feel like they have no purpose because it's like we have a lot of people.
Yeah.
Like, what do I want? What do I want to do? I could do anything I want now. And it's almost like a paralysis. It's not like before where it's like, my dad was a blacksmith, so I'm going to be a blacksmith. So
Yeah.
you have
Yeah.
kind of like this purpose, this focus. Now it's like, you know what? You can be whatever you want to be. And it's like, well, that sucks. Actually, like someone kind of give
Yeah.
me at least
Mhm.
some guideline in order, like give me some options. And
Yeah.
that's why like in sales, when I worked with Nike and we did like selling and stuff, it's like, if you tell everybody like, hey, we have thousands of shoes. Pick out the one you like the best. People will be like, "What are you talking about?"
Yeah.
But when you can talk to them and say, like, "Hey, tell me a little bit about what you're looking for," narrow it down to like two or three options, they're going to feel much better. Like, "Hey, I picked the right option out
Mhm.
of two or three."
Out of
Because the
it.
thing is,
Yeah.
what are the odds they think they're going to pick the right
Yeah.
one out of 1,000? It's
Mhm.
not. So it is a really interesting dynamic to have. It's like, yeah, we feel more comfortable and we do have the ability to be happier. Like we have the ability, but you know, a lot of us aren't, and it's very
Well,
interesting.
and I don't know, like, I mean, you've got I mean, I've got kids.
Hmm.
Like you've got a daughter. Like I don't know. I don't know. Like I don't assume it's easy growing up now. Like with, all the stuff that kids have to deal with these days, like my kids are not quite to the age of, cell phones and those sort of things. They're getting to the age of like asking if they're of the age of cell phones and stuff like that. We're still resisting, but like, I don't know, like there's a lot of stuff that young people deal with now that I didn't have to deal with.
Hmm.
And, so there, I mean, I don't think it's easy. And I don't know, like if it is the type of thing where you just have so much stuff thrown at you that you just don't know where you are in all that
Yeah.
stuff. Like if you think about, like,
Mhm.
I mean, just the mass of stuff that people see, like where does a kid feel like, oh, here's what I am, like here's where I
Yeah.
fit into all that stuff. I think that was probably pretty hard. I don't know.
Oh, no, I think so.
Yeah.
Wow, I loved all this. This is a good segue into our
Yeah.
second question.
Oh God. Oh no.
So, so what is the biggest struggle that you've made it through?
Um, maybe this is why I say, Ricky, that like, oh, it's so easy now. Like people have it so good. Like, maybe I'm just showing my bias, but like I mean, I really haven't been through a lot of like. I imagine when you stack up, what I'm gonna say as far as like hard stuff, like it's probably not that hard compared to I don't know, like some of the stuff that you've probably talked to other people. Here's my answer. Like I had when I was 20 years old, I had testicular cancer. Um, and it sounds really bad, like I'm like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, it
But like
does.
it was like so I was 20 years old. I had surgery to remove the stuff. They got all the stuff. They we went through a I remember we talked to the doctors, my parents and I, and they're like, okay, here are your options. You can do this. You can do this. You can do chemotherapy if you want, to just make sure that we got everything. You don't have to, but you can, or we can do these other things. And we're like, okay, let's do the chemotherapy. And so when I say it was like easy, it was like me going in to get these treatments, and I would like go. I was a 20-year-old young man. I go into these this treatment place, and there was this big room, and there was people in these chairs, and you'd sit down, and they'd put an IV in, and like you'd sit there for 4 hours while this treatment was happening. And I was sitting there, and all the other people there were like older and going, like they were in bad shape, and like struggling through this stuff. And I was a 20-year-old kid, like I'd finish the stuff, and then I go hang out with my friends, and we do stuff, like it was. Anyway, my point being is like it was. I had cancer, but it was like really easy. It was for. I mean, it was like it was not. It was really easy compared to what everybody else in that room was going through. Like it was really a thing that I did. I took the treatment, I had the surgery, and then it was gone. And I've been free ever since. So I think, I mean, I guess that's my answer as far as like this struggle part. Like that's the thing that I could think of, because I do think like I've had it pretty good. Like I feel pretty fortunate. Like I've had it pretty good. All my family is healthy and alive. And like I have 3 grandparents that are all alive still. I've only lost one grandparent, and everybody else is still. I don't know. I just feel pretty fortunate in a lot of that stuff. So I don't know if I've been through a whole lot of stuff. But I think that period was probably the hardest. Um, but even that was probably pretty easy. So
See, and
the
that's what's it. Huh?
oh no, so the only other thing that I thought of, and I don't know if this counts, Ricky, um, is because it was very short. So there's a very short struggle in my life. Um, I had so it was like 24-hour struggle. Here's what it is. So it was probably 5 or so years ago. Um, I went in to get a doctor checkup, and I don't remember what it was. I had like I don't know the enzymes in my kidneys were high or something like that, like something pretty innocuous. Um, I think it was just like, oh, let's go check that out. They were gonna do I think a sonogram of my kidney to check something out or whatever. And so I'm in the little room or whatever, and they're doing the sonogram. And they're like, we think you should go get a we'd like go get a CT scan We think you should do it pretty quickly. We've got you scheduled for 6 a.m. tomorrow morning to go get this scan. Like, oh, okay. And so what they told me was they found a spot on my pancreas that they wanted to have me go check out. And so this is like end of the day or something, like 5 o'clock. I'm thinking, and I go home and start Googling like pancreatic cancer and survival rates of pancreatic cancer. And it's not good at all. Like it's like
Uh-huh.
one of the worst survival rates of cancer that exists. It's just like terrible. And so like, I don't know, for that night and up until the next morning, I was like, I don't know if I have pancreatic cancer. And I was like, like I was like
Yeah.
30, 35, 38 years old or so at the time. And so like, I don't know. It was just like, oh, okay. Like, I don't know what's going to happen. I remember looking at, so my kids were, I think my oldest was 5 or so at the time. And so like, I was like, I don't, like if, I don't know if I have pancreatic cancer and Google tells me that it's like a 1% survival rate or something like that. Like it's really
Yeah.
bad. Like, I don't know, will my kids remember me? I don't know.
Uh-huh.
And then I went to the scan the next day and they're like, oh, I think they call it a fatty deposit or a fatty infiltration and everything's fine.
Uh-huh.
So it was nothing. It was like a evening and a night of kind of figuring out what, like kind of being pretty freaked out, and then everything
Uh-huh.
was fine the next day. So
You see, I hear your stories, and I knew you were gonna have some struggles because this is the thing too. Like because going back to what you were saying earlier is like your mentality is like, well, it could always be worse, right?
I
So like that's how I knew it was gonna be. Like I knew we were gonna have this conversation, and you were gonna
think it's
say,
fine. It's
well, I haven't
fine.
been through any struggles, and then
Yeah,
you said testicular cancer. That's
yeah,
like think about that. Like there would be people like devastated, especially at a young age, thinking like you're 20 something years old. I mean, that's kind of unheard of. I feel like for that to even happen at that age.
yeah. I mean, I think I caught it early. Like I think it was
Yeah.
like um, again, like really fortunate that it happened the way it did, and it was pretty easy to mitigate and take care of it. And then we took care of it, and we, I don't know, we had good health insurance at the time, or like all those sort of things. I think
Yeah.
planned to it. So I don't know. Sorry, that's my biggest struggles, Ricky. That's what I've got.
Well, that was a good one, and that was not what I was expecting either. Because literally said like I haven't really been through struggles. I was expecting to say like, well, like I had my car stolen once, or
No,
like, and I was like, man, that sucks. But then,
I
then
sprained
you hit us with
I
that, and we're like,
sprained my
whoa.
ankle this one time, and it was just kind of annoying.
I didn't
Couldn't
make the
play
varsity
basketball.
basketball team. Exactly. We just said that in basketball.
I did. So this is true story, Ricky.
Uh,
I did sprain my ankle in college once,
uh-huh.
and I had a job at like a retail sporting goods store, and I remember like I was walking slow in that at my job, like going to whatever restock or whatever,
Yeah.
and my boss get like pick it on up, John. I was not happy with him. So it's a true story. I have been through struggles, Ricky.
Yeah, the struggle is real.
I remember that guy's name too. From to this
That's
day,
funny.
I can still remember that guy's name.
Wow. That's funny. Yeah,
Anyway,
see, that was like every other week when I was doing a whole bunch of leg workouts. I was always just walking slow all the time.
yeah,
Uh,
easy. It was easy.
that's
So
funny.
I don't know. I feel like pretty. I've thought about this a lot. Like I'm pretty. Well, even like what we were talking about before, like where we live, the time where like
Yeah.
I don't know, living in the place that we live, and like I said, I've got I really like my family has always been supportive of me. I've
Yeah.
like always had a strong support structure um, around me. Always had really supportive people around me. So I think I don't know. Even
Yeah.
during that time, like it was, they like it didn't seem like it was a big struggle because we, you know.
Yeah. No, I get that. And I can't say I'd be any different either with that. Like, because if I ask myself the same question, I only have one thing that usually pops to mind. And
Oh
it's just
yeah.
because it's been recent over the last few years. And that's like
Mm,
my divorce, because I
yeah.
remember how I felt. But other than that, like, you ask me the same question, I'd be like, yeah, you know, can't think of too much.
Mhm.
And maybe it is, maybe it's not. Maybe it's the same mentality of like, well, it could be worse. I mean, it
Yeah.
seemed good to me.
Well, and
But
I
yeah,
think about too, like I've like we were, you know, I don't know, like middle class growing up, you know, like we weren't, you know, rich or anything like that, but like I had support there. I had help, you know. I went to college. You know, like I was able to do those things that I was able to do stuff that I wanted to do, you know, like pursue um, you know, like careers that I wanted to pursue. I was able to get a job that I was able, you know, that I liked, that I was
yeah,
able to grow in, and you know, like has been pretty steady for me. You know, like I don't think a
yeah,
lot of people have a lot of that stuff.
yeah.
So I don't know. I feel pretty fortunate for a lot of those reasons.
Yeah. No, I think, well, it's also too, I mean, you're looking at it from like a blessings approach, right? Like the things that are good, you know. And I don't know if some people don't see it stuff that way, you know. And I know we're programmed technically. A lot of us are programmed to threat assess, so we tend to see the negative more than the positive. But I think it's a healthy mindset to have and just be able to see all the good that's happened. Because same thing for me is, you know, I work, you know, at a company I really enjoy. I get to do a lot of the things I like, and I really have no complaints for
Hmm.
the most part at all. Because yeah, to that point, it could always be worse.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, and yeah, I just think that like that. So you were talking about like leg work, right? You, I feel like and I don't think I'm the kind of exercise person that you are, Ricky. But like I do some stuff like that, and I feel like part of it is like, well, I got to do something that's difficult. You
Uh-huh.
know, like there's a little bit of like I should probably push myself some way, you know, like in some fashion to that I
Yeah.
and I feel like that's sort of a very I don't know a very like I don't know like that's also a kind of thing that you know because we're sort of in the position we are and we don't have to you know like worry about other stuff and like oh I don't have to you know worry about I don't know where my next meal is going to come from, like those sort of things. Like, I guess I'll
Yeah.
go worry about, you know, how strong my legs are and how much I can lift with the, you know, like that sort of stuff.
I know. Yeah. I think that's the good point is we need to intentionally do hard things these
Yeah.
days. You know, used to, I guess back in the day, I'm sure hard times just happened all the, you know, what happened to some people. It's like, well, there's no
Yeah.
avoidance. So I got to figure out how to make it through.
Hmm.
But I think there is something to be said about like, yeah, when you do a really difficult workout or when you do something challenging that's scary or something like that, like there's tons of benefits to that. Like the type of person you become on the other side is amazing.
Yeah. I've, uh, um, I've started to, and I don't, maybe we'll get into this later. I've started to, run marathons now. Like I ran two last year
Nice.
and I think it's I, I should probably do something to challenge myself and I should probably like really like it's almost like a little bit of um I don't know like you know like it's a very privileged like well I should really you know I better run 26 miles to figure out if I can run 26 miles right like
Yeah.
because that's I've got nothing else to do. There is a little bit of like oh I don't know let's see how far we can push this because I'm not being pushed elsewhere you know like as far as
Yeah.
you know like body sort of stuff. I don't know.
Agreed. And it's
Yeah.
funny too because I've always so I trained in fighting a long time ago, like
Mm.
boxing, kickboxing, jujitsu, and I really enjoyed that back in the day. And even when I was a kid, like I just loved wrestling kids. Like if you got to know
Yeah.
me, it was like I would just meet kids randomly, like, hey, you want to wrestle? And they're like, sure. So we just wrestle. And it's funny because I think that's a part of me that I haven't really dug into lately. And like the older I get, the more I have the urge, like you said, run a marathon, the more I just want to like, I want to hop in a cage and just fight for a little bit.
Yeah.
Like,
Well,
just, you
and
know what I mean? It's so
there's a little
interesting.
bit of like, could I do this? Like, what would happen
Yeah.
if I jumped into a cage and started fighting people?
Yeah.
Like,
It's
would
like,
I hurt?
yeah.
Would I
Well,
just
it's,
fold into the corner? Like, that's probably what I would do. I don't know if that's your response, but like,
well, yeah. Well, I trained pretty hard in it for a while and I kept a lot of that with me, but it's been a while since I've trained and I've been like, you know what? Just do it for fun. Why not?
yeah,
Like it's something that I never, even back then, like I sparred a lot and I trained a lot, but I actually never hopped in a cage before. It was more just for fun and exercise and knowledge. And then the older I get, the more I'm like,
just hop in a
I should
cage,
probably just,
Ricky.
I should probably just step in a cage. Full bucket. I'm doing stuff like that like crazy now too, which cracks me up. Like
Do
even today
they
at work, huh?
do they have like where you go to exercise? Is there like a cage in the middle? Like, is there like
Not at the gym I go to now,
no?
but I
At your
could.
the place that you used to go to, the sparring place?
So
Did they have
no,
cages?
no. So my parents owned a gym back in the day, and
Darn
what
it!
they did
I'm so
is we had
disappointed.
a we had this martial arts school, like run it for a bit, and
Mm,
like they kind of ran it out of the back room, and that's where I did a lot of jujitsu and stuff, which was really cool. And then got trained, yeah, in boxing, kickboxing, but it was all just at that gym. It wasn't like a
mm-hmm.
legit boxing gym or something like that you go through where yeah they have a cage and a ring, but um yeah, it's crazy. Yeah, yeah. Like I said, the older I get, the more I'm just like, I should probably do that. Man, it doesn't seem very smart, but it's like
I
to
think
the point that you said about marathon. It's
hmm
like, you know, I don't know. It's interesting
I think we've found where we differ
where
now,
we veer
Ricky.
off.
I mean, like we both evidently like to push ourselves in a certain way. You like to push yourself
Yeah.
into a maybe I should go punch somebody and let someone else punch me. And I'm more like
Uh,
I'm just gonna go off by myself and run on my own for a long time, just out on my
dude,
own.
it's
Nobody close to me that could even think about punching me, like not
but
even
that's
close.
the interesting thing though is that the running a marathon scares me more than that. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
you might be right.
Like,
You might be right.
because like don't get me wrong, like I don't like I'll run, but I'll sprint. Like I don't like it's like distance. It's like man, that sounds terrible.
There's a little bit of in my estimation, running a marathon. There's a little bit of like because I don't. I mean, I think I run them okay. I'm not like super fast.
Yeah.
But I'm not super slow. I'm running them okay. But there's a little bit of like I know that I can't sprint very fast. Like if we
Mhm.
were sprinting, Ricky, if in that meeting where you had me stand on one leg, if you were like, okay, we're gonna sprint what or wherever, I would probably not do too good. But over time, I think I can grit it
Yeah.
out more. You know, like a young man
Mhm.
can probably beat me in a race, but I can probably outlast a young man. He's probably going to get bored, and I'm going to still be running
Mhm.
after a while. So it's a little
Yeah.
bit of like, I think there's a lot of like, oh, at my age, what can I do? And I think running a marathon is one of those things.
True. And it's playing to strengths too, because that's how, like, I was never a distance runner ever, even though people assume I am because they look at me like, you look like a runner, sprinter and jumper.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, I'm explosive and quick, but like over long periods of time, it doesn't necessarily work for me that well. Like, I've
Yeah.
gotten better and better over the years, but still, like, just
I don't
wasn't
know.
me.
For people who don't know, I'm a short fellow. So like in high school, I would do sports and stuff, but I was not tall or big or anything like that. So
Mhm.
running a long ways was one of the things that I could do. Even like sprinting, like stuff like that. Like the more condensed the space is, the more you need like long legs and a long stride and those sort of things. Whereas long distance running, you can be short and still kind of make your way.
Yeah. And funny thing is, though, it's not necessarily true. I knew a lot of really good sprinters that were actually short,
Oh, really? Hmm.
which is interesting. We had some, so I don't know, but like I mean, if you look at Usain Bolt, one of the best
Yeah.
sprinters in the world, yeah, he's tall, but and maybe at that level, maybe you have to be taller and stuff. But I don't know. It was interesting because we used to have a couple short people that I was surprised with, like, huh, why are you as fast as you are? So I don't know.
I sort of chalk it up as like my sort of physical gifts
Yep.
we're not so much, we're not very good, I guess. And so I had to make up for it with like, all right, I guess I'm gonna have to grit this out for a long ways. So
Yeah.
I don't
It's
know.
interesting. Okay. So
Yeah.
what are you currently going through?
Oh, that's like the toughest one. I don't know. Like, I mean, I think the biggest thing, like, I've got, kids. I've got a, 11 and 9-year old, and like, just watching them grow up, like, is kind
Mhm.
of what I'm going through. Like, I think that's the biggest thing I'm doing right now. The most important thing I'm doing right now is just trying to help them do that stuff. So, and I think that's it. Like I don't know, the ups and downs. Like it's mostly ups for me, but like the ups and downs of that is kind of like the current sort of phase, I guess, that I'm in as far as like um, things that I'm going through. Like just kind of, just trying to be a dad and trying to, you know, teach them stuff, but not push them too much into. I think about you're talking about music. Do you do this, Ricky, where you're like, I want to show them different kinds of music, but I don't want to like push it on them because then they're gonna
Yeah.
hate it, and then they're gonna like the opposite. So it's like those sort of things. Like I feel like that's a good sort of analogy to like parenting of like I want to show them things. I want to, if they're interested in things, we follow those things. We, like get them exposed to those things, but also kind of like, all right, like they're old enough now where it's like, all right, a little bit hands
Hmm.
off and figure things out on your own too. So
Yep.
I don't know.
Yeah. It's funny when Rachel was younger, it was easier to get her into my style music because I just play it. And like, even at one point, she was trying to scream with some music too and just, being like two or three, just going, "Mwah." And it's
Yeah.
like, hey, that's awesome. That's what I'm saying. And then the older she gets, the more she hates it. And it
Yeah.
bothers me so bad because I'm like, I put a song on, like, listen to this. I hate this song, Dad. How do you hate it? Why do you
It's
hate it? What do you hate about it?
yeah.
And then she just followed into her mom's footsteps. And now she listens to everything her mom listens to. And we have a few songs in common and a few bands. So I'm like, okay, at least I have those. But other than
Mhm.
that, usually it's just like, turn this off, Dad. I don't want to listen to it.
Yeah.
It's like,
It's like
well,
the opposite kind of in terms of like I'm the same way that like I think they listen to my stuff like that's kind of weird, Dad. I don't know. Like that's kind of weird. And then but then they'll put on even like Disney stuff or whatever, like whatever like okay, I
mhm,
kind of like I'm like I'm into this now because it has an associated with my kid and I like my kids.
mhm.
So like I guess I'm into this Encanto soundtrack now. Um so yeah, that's kind of how we roll here.
See, it's
I
funny. I'm still critical.
well, you're right. I mean, that's a good point. You called me on it because I think I am pretty critical until it's like a little bit of like a my daughter
Mhm.
heartstrings pulling. Like, all right,
Yeah.
Taylor Swift. She's got a couple of bangers. That one's pretty good.
Uh, Dude, that's where I draw the line. Oh my gosh. So,
Well,
so
I can do it.
this is a non Taylor Swift household.
Oh,
She listens to T Swift with her mom all the time,
oh.
and I've never been able to get into it. I don't know what it was. Like T Swift. So yeah. So every once in a while we'll be like, if we do the game where it's like I'll pick a song, then you pick a song, then
Mhm.
it is what it is. But yeah, it's interesting.
So your
So
household is like I'll pick a song and then you pick a song and then she picks a Taylor Swift song and then you pick a you know
try to pick the
death
longest metal
cannibal
song I can
something
think of.
like yeah.
It's like you just picked a 2.5 minute Taylor Swift song. I'm going
You
to pick
play
this
the long
11
game.
minute, this 11 minute metal song with a 5 minute breakdown. Yep, exactly.
I can do like I can now. So here's where I'm at. Like I can find the cool parts in those whatever
Uh-huh.
like the Encanto soundtrack has some interesting stuff in there.
That's funny.
Maybe
I was just gonna.
maybe there's a Frozen one. Not so much. Not so much in
Dude,
some of that. But there are you got to find the nuggets. That's where I'm at. I'm
yeah.
probably like, okay, I'm connecting with my kid on this, and there are some nuggets. There's some Taylor Swift. Like
Hmm.
there's some not great ones, but
Uh-huh.
I can put the ones that I like towards the top, and we can play those.
Uh-huh. It's funny that you said that. Encanto is literally what I was going to bring up. So like I find stuff like
Is
that that
that
I
on the
can listen
list?
to.
Was that on the list
That's
that you sent out?
dude,
Encanto?
but it's because I like minor music. So I like minor key
Mm,
music. So that's the thing. So
yeah.
if it's really jolly and happy, I just don't relate to it. I don't like it. But like Encanto's a good example. It's got some really nice minor kind of Spanish sounding music
Hmm.
that's like I can get down with this. Like,
There's a
you
mix
know,
of stuff in there too.
yeah.
There's a little
Don't
bit
talk
of
about Bruno is fine, but man, the one
yeah,
I do like Surface Pressure, is that the one?
yeah. I mean, there's some like R and
Yes.
B stuff in there too. Some like
It, yeah.
rhythms that are not bad in that. I
And
totally agree with that.
what's cool too is you can find rock bands that cover some of this stuff on
Yeah,
Spotify. So I have a band that covered Surface Pressure that just makes it rock, and I'm
yeah.
like I can do this, and she can do it because it's Surface Pressure, and I can do it because it's like that too. So you can find good mediums, but
Hmm.
every
Nice.
once in a while, yeah, I get you. Like there's some Disney stuff that I'm like I like that song. I could do
Yeah.
that song. Um,
Well,
yeah, but yeah,
I'm also at the phase of uh, fatherhood where like I maybe this is just me. Maybe everybody doesn't go through this, but like I just get emotional at kid stuff, at just at the drop of a hat. Like
yeah.
good luck watching a kids movie with me because I'm probably tearing up. Like I just do that at kid stuff, and even like I do that with more stuff now than I have done before, and I think kids have done
Uh-huh.
that to me. But like that's like I don't know. There's a soft spot in me, and evidently it is my connection with my kids. And I'm like, all
Yes.
right, they got this. They're
Yep.
owning it. So that's what I
That's a
do.
real thing. That's a real thing.
Hmm.
Same thing here. I was never much of a crier, never got emotional at movies because that's always like it's entertainment. There's a disconnect
Hmm.
for the most part. I mean, there are always some movies that would get me, but it's very rare.
Yeah.
But yeah, after having a kid, it's like any part that has a father and daughter dynamic, there's always some type of emotion going on there. So
And
I'll watch and just be like, oh man.
I think it's worse for me. Like with adult stuff, I don't know if I don't know if I get that way with adult stuff very much.
uh
I really haven't watched a lot of like movies that are meant for like anything uh above PG-13. I don't have like I don't have time for. Like I'm not just like watching movies by myself or
Yeah.
like with my wife because we're doing kid stuff. So I can't say that we watch a lot of non-kid movies, but like kid stuff will totally bring that out in me. Whereas like adult, like I don't know, a dramatic movie and no, 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 thanks. Like I don't know, it doesn't have the same reaction to me. But like even like like terrible kid stuff will get me versus like really
Mm.
good, I don't know, really good, drama or whatever will interest me in a different way. But I don't tear up like I do for. I just lose it sometimes.
That's fair. That's fair. Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. So who's someone that's changed your life that doesn't know it?
Um, I think. So I said that. So I think my family is generally pretty young. Like I have a grandfather who's turning 100 years old. Um,
Wow.
this coming Saturday, a week from Saturday. We're gonna go celebrate with him. So anyway, I have a lot of like my grandparents are all like pretty with it and those sort of things. I had a grandfather. He died. I want to say like maybe 6 years ago, something like that. Is what I think. I'm gonna say 6 years ago. Maybe it was more than that. I think it might have been more than that. Anyway, he was um he was the one that where we go over the summers and we go to his farm and he farmed it. And he was just like I don't know, he was just a good dude. Um he once told me, and this has stuck with me ever since. When we were, high school kids, me and my brother, we were, like annoying, I don't know, sophomore in high school, and my brother was a senior or something like that, and we just like fight and get on each other's nerves and go at it, like just being what high school kids were. And we go up to my grandparents' farm, and we work for the summer, and we, probably like we were probably like a pain to work with. I'm imagining me, like trying to get us to do stuff, and like we're, I don't know, slacking off, and doing, like probably screwing off on different things, and probably should be working more on those sort of things. And it was later on after that. I want to say like a couple of years after we sort of moved on to college, and we weren't coming back to work on his farm. He told us once. He told me, he's like, when you guys would come back and work for us this summer, like that was like one of the highlights of my life. That's what he told me. I was like,
Wow.
it's, I don't know. Like I look back on it now, I'm like, he lived to be 80, 90 years old. Had a good full life, had a big full family, and all that sort of stuff. And I'm like, just high school kid, like that was it. Like we were
Uh-huh.
just dumb high school. So I think what I don't know. It just made me sort of kind of realize like the effect that you can have on people. Like when you don't even know it.
Yeah.
I was really grateful to know him. He was just a good guy, and like that sort of connection was, I don't know, was kind of special. So
Uh,
yeah,
it's
his name was
awesome.
Keith.
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny. Yeah.
My
You never know how you're going to impact people or how people impact you. It's so
yeah,
interesting because most people never tell you.
I know that's totally true, and that's true for me too. We're talking about like shit, when you bottle stuff up and you're quiet and
Uh-huh.
you just like that's me. I should be more like tell people stuff. I should do that more often.
Yeah. I've been doing the same. So the last few years, I've tried to make it a point is like, if someone impacts me, let them know.
Yeah.
But because prior to that, I just never did. I just never thought about it. It's like I was grateful and I had good interactions with people. I just never
Mhm.
thought about telling them. And then the older I get, the more I'm like, like I guess I would want someone to tell me, I guess, if I
Yeah.
impacted someone, because you never know, you don't think about that because, from us, we could, you know, yeah, you just don't know at the end of the day. Like I hope I impacted these people well,
Yeah.
but yeah.
Well, and I think like for my grandpa, like he probably knew that, like I loved him, and like we, had a good relationship and that sort of thing. But I don't know if he knew, like how much he impacted. He definitely didn't know like how much that impacted, like him saying that,
Mhm.
him sort of feeling
Yeah.
that way towards us impacted me. And because I never talked with him about it, like
Mhm. Yeah.
I should probably do that more. But like I don't know. I think, where are you from originally, Ricky?
I grew up in Lake of the Ozarks, Missouri.
Okay. So like I feel like, I don't know if you feel it, like Midwestern people, like kind of people from the middle of the country, are like, I don't know. I feel like I'm very like just just um you know be calm. Don't, like don't get too up about things. Don't get too down about things. Just like very level headed sort of stuff. And I feel like um I don't know. I should probably be more, like be more, I don't know, like effusive, and those sort of things to kind of let more people know how they, I don't know, how they affect me.
Yeah. I think maybe just being conscious of it and just having the conversation. I don't think you have to be real outgoing by any means
Just like
or whatever you were just miming.
slapping everybody on the back, and
Like, hey, thank
oh
you. You're the
yeah,
best,
that's the
man.
best.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Uh, so what's a skill or talent you could share with us?
That's what I was gonna say. Running marathons. That's what
Okay.
I think I've learned how to do that. I've done two of them. That's not that many. A lot of people have done more. I'm gonna try and run three this year. So that's my skill.
Isn't
Is
that funny? People
running.
have done more. And then for me, I'm like, two, that's impressive. I've never done any. Perspective, right?
Yeah, you could probably do it pretty easily.
Hey, it is pretty infectious because I used to work. I'd work the Expo at the Chicago Marathon.
Mm,
I did that a few years with
yeah.
Nike, and just selling people shoes and stuff. But every time when you're around that community and see people running, like it does get you pumped, man. At one point, I was like, dude, I should go run it.
Yeah.
And the cool thing is because we ran the Expo, or because we worked for Nike, they gave us like free entry. If you wanted to do it,
Oh,
just
cool.
go
Mhm.
up and do it. Never did. I decided to work instead, but I had the opportunity.
I want to run that one at some point because I love Chicago's a great city. I love that city, and so like running there would be great. It is a lit like I ran the Kansas City Marathon in October, and I ran the marathon. I was like, phew, that was tough. Like that one was really hard. It's really hilly
Um,
there, and so it was really difficult. But it was great, and I loved it. And like I remember, like after I was done, I went up to the finish line area and just kind of like watched people coming in. There's like people coming in with tears running down their face and those sort of things. And I mean, I think there's a little bit. I think I don't know. Marathon stuff is a little bit of there's like some I don't know. I think there's some like midlife crisis sort of stuff in there as far as like I'm 43. I think my body's gonna hold up for hopefully a lot longer. But like I can do this now. I want to
yeah,
do these things and prove that I could still do these things. And like you'll see like people cross the finish line. There's like, oh, I didn't know I could do. Like there is a little bit of that in there to where it's like it's not an easy thing to do, and it's not something that you can just I'm going to do this today. Like you got to work at it and you got to train at it.
uh-huh.
And like you can see people like cross the finish line though, like just kind of awash with emotions and those sort of things. So it's pretty. I
Yeah.
don't know. That's the cool part of that thing is where it's like, you know, you gotta. It's the kind of like physical thing where like you can probably do like 2 or 3 or 4. Like I think the people that are really good at it can do like 4 or 5 a year, and that's
Uh-huh.
it. Like it's the kind of thing
Yeah.
like it's so um taxing and exhausting that like it's not like I don't know another sort of athletic pursuit where you do it over and over again and you do it over and over again. It's like, well, you do it once and then you recover for 3 weeks, and then like after that now you're recovered, and now you're
Uh-huh.
can sort of start building for the next one. But yeah, it's fun. I don't know.
Yeah.
I like it.
Does it ever baffle you that people like it's a pretty like normal thing now for people to run a marathon, but back in the day it was like didn't the first person that run a marathon die? Like
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like isn't that
yeah.
weird?
Well, and it goes back to what we were talking about as far as like like some of the time we live in and the place that we live in. Like I got it pretty good, so I'm gonna go
Uh,
out and try and
yeah.
find my sort of what's the extent I can like exert myself, because I don't
Uh,
have to exert myself physically or emotionally in other ways, so I can sort of kind of I can choose to tax myself that way.
uh,
But yeah, I mean like, and I think running is like more popular now than it's ever been. Like I think people are choosing that, and I don't know if there's deeper reasons for that. If there's like that's how like some of the stuff we were talking about before, like that's how people connect with things. Like they do that because that's how they have to sort of connect to the outside world or those sort of things. Like I can get that.
yeah. Yeah, we all got to choose something hard.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, it is hard. I don't know if I said that
Yeah.
before, but it is hard.
I can imagine. So what are you learning about currently that you like to teach us?
I don't know. I I think it's like like I've read some books on um, evolution
Uh,
and like long arc, like we were talking about before, like long arc stuff. Like here's the sort of breadth of like I like history. Um, so I think it's a sort of like trying to I don't know figure out like the sort of not the grand scope of things, but like okay, where do we fit in some of this stuff? And I think it's very interesting to me. So I don't know. I don't know if I'm like an expert on any of this stuff because it's just like, oh, I've read this book, I've listened to this podcast a couple times. One of them was an audio book. I don't even know if that counts as reading a book. I listened to a book. So yeah, that's kind of what I'm learning now. But I like that stuff.
that counts. That counts.
Uh,
Audiobooks count.
okay, good.
So then so from that, so learn about evolution. So what was one of your biggest takeaways from that?
One of the things that was interesting to me, like when I sort of like grasped, not grasped isn't the right word, but like when I was able to understand that better, just like the understanding like the time frames that we were talking about, like it's hard to sort of think about like millions and millions of years. Like what does that even mean? To us who,
Hmm.
like I've I know what 43 and a half years looks like. That's all I know.
Yeah.
And so what does like 10 million years look like? And I think like that's the hard part for me is um, like, so there's this, tell me if this makes sense, Ricky. There's this concept in thinking about sort of, um, like the life of the earth. And so like when, like the fossils and the rocks that they can study, and they put sort of the whole life of the earth on a 24-hour clock.
Hmm.
If you sort of imagine like, okay, 24 hours one day, and let's sort of imagine what the life of the earth is like that. So there's like, from, midnight to, I don't know, like midnight to like 4 a.m. It's all just like, there's no, land masses. It's all like there's like asteroids hitting the earth all the time. And it's sort of like this mess of stuff, right? And then
Hmm.
like, you go further and you get like, the earliest fossils. And so they're like single cell sort of stuff. And then you go further and, then there's plants and those sort of, and then the dinosaurs and all this stuff. And you get to like, so this is a representation of the start of when the earth started to exist to present day. And so like that's 24 hours. It's like the last 20 minutes in this analogy. The last like, I think it's like the last, 2 minutes is like humans are here. And so it's just like, like it's just hard to sort of
Hmm.
like, okay. And then like, like one little sliver of that is me in this. I
Yeah.
don't know. Like, so I just find that sort of, I don't know, interesting as like how, like,
Yeah.
I don't know if it makes me feel good or makes me feel bad how like insignificant, like we are slash I am, I don't know. Like I'm interested in that stuff because it's just kind of like, oh, okay.
Evolution's interesting because there's so many theories around it. So it's really hard to like we don't actually know, right?
Yeah.
We can't know, but it's fascinating to think of like how we came to be, especially when you look at it like well, your perspective is like, yeah, we showed up in the last 2 minutes of that
Yeah.
24-hour clock, and it's like, okay, so yeah,
Well,
why, how?
and the sort of like the interesting thing is like there are, I don't know, there's a lot that we know and there's a lot that we don't know. Like again, like I've was listening to these people talk about like um like how life came to be, right? And so it's like, the theory is that there's just sort of this, you know, warm pool of stuff that's got all these, um like, molecules in it that could come together, right? And they could
Hmm.
come together and they could form a cell wall, and they could form a, and I'm not a chemist, so I don't fully understand it, but like, oh, there's, like DNA, right? DNA
Hmm.
is, a protein, and you need DNA to make DNA, right? So it's like, like once you get that, you can, have hereditary, like, things move on, hereditarily. I don't think that's a word, but like, but then like, but how did DNA come to be? And so like, there's
Hmm.
RNA, and like, oh, maybe you can do a little bit with RNA. So there's just like there's a lot that we don't know and a lot that we do know. Like it's just kind of this,
Yeah, yeah.
and the fossil stuff is really interesting to me because it's like they, like there's just kind of like you have a, I don't know what you call it. It's almost like you have a blurry image of something, right? It's not
Hmm.
like, full, you know, here's a dinosaur or whatever, right? It's like
Exactly. Yeah.
here's an imprint of what a dinosaur used to be, and so like you can get some information out of there. I don't know. It's just all interesting as far as like how much there is to know and like how much we don't know. And like those things that we
Hmm.
don't know are really interesting as far as like like where stuff comes from, like where these sort of I don't know I don't know. It's just like the whole grand scope of it is just kind of mind boggling. It's like the I don't know if you ever do this, Ricky. Like I find it really peaceful. I don't know if that's the right word, but I'm gonna say like peaceful to think of like look at like astronomical photography and those sort of things. So we're like things
Hmm.
that are like galaxies super far away, and the light is um, light years across these things, like just really things that are hard to wrap your head around. For some reason, that's soothing to me. To me,
Hmm.
as far as like, man, it's almost um, like an abstraction of things that I find really helpful. I don't know.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. It's like the stuff we don't know. It's fun to. I think it's fun too for us that are kind of more intellectual like that, just to like kind of try to fathom that stuff, like try to make sense of
Yeah.
it. Because yeah, space is weird. I was talking with another guest on a couple episodes ago, and we were just talking about space in general. It's just weird thinking that like, hey, that star I see now maybe doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because of light
Mhm.
years and it traveling to you. It's like that's weird to think like we're actually looking in the past,
Yeah. Yeah.
and that's interesting to
Mhm.
me.
Yeah. Like those sort
But
of
yeah.
um, for me, like those sort of, I don't know what you call it, those abstract things that are really hard to like wrap your head around. Like that's my sort of like spirituality. Like that's the closest that I think I
Hmm.
am, like as far as like a my spirituality, or so he's like, man, that it's so far away and it's so vast and it's so you know beautiful and it's empty and it's all the like that sort of
Yeah.
stuff is where I sort of connect with like big things, I guess. Is I like, oh man, that's a lot. So
Yeah. That's
mm,
fascinating. So go back to the evolution thing. So
yeah,
I just want to know. So what do you think? Because we don't know for
yeah.
sure. But what's your theory?
I mean, I think all life evolved from one single organism. Like it was probably like a
Really?
yeah bacteria like thing, and like
Wow.
over and sort of how like I think like when I think about it is like it seems like how is that
Hmm.
possible and how does that work? And I think like it's a matter of like trying to wrap my head around the time of it. Like what is
Uh-huh.
human history is what like I don't know, like 6,000 years, 8,000 years, something like that. Is like all of recorded human history is that much.
Yeah.
And they're like, okay, so then like what is like um a million years compared to that? Okay. Okay, what does 10 million years look like for that? And it's just like
Yeah. Yeah.
whoa, like it gets to be like, okay, we're talking about a large amount of time, and like 100 million years in evolutionary time frame. It's like that's stuff happens over that period of time. Like things change. Organisms can evolve over that period of time. So I don't know. That's my thinking, is that it's like it's it's just an all big vast timeline, and so I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah. See, when I think about it, I don't know if I think that way. So when I think about it, I think we adapt because I think there's no way to say that that's not true because we clearly adapt.
Yeah.
All humans, we all look
Mhm.
different for a reason in our environment. But for me, I don't know if I can wrap my head around that of coming from one single thing because it does seem so different. It seems like even though when I think about like, all the animals out there right now, I think like
Mhm.
there's still a weird disconnect between us and them. And I
Well,
don't, you know what I mean? There,
yeah,
there is, and it's weird.
and I think the interesting part, and I don't understand this very well, but like the the interestingness of like when humans in particular, like we, like we're the kind of this weird like social animal. Like I think it's sort of built into us to where like we are very social and we work together and we do all these things, and like,
Hmm.
and then there's a point where we do that and then we, like I think there's a name for it and I can't think of it at the moment. Something like the intellectual, uh, I don't remember what it's called. Like something like we reached a point where like the sort of intellectual nature of humans just became, just exploded as far as like, and then how that affected other things. And we'd, like humans would move on to like, I think they have, I was reading this thing about New Zealand and Australia and those sort of things. And like humans got to the point where they would go, they didn't exist on like the island of Australia. And then we would, humans would go to that island and completely change, all the biology and all the plant life and like just kind of take over. And it was because of our intellect and our brain capacity and, working all together and those sort of things. So I think it is like, that's the big unknown in my mind as far as like, oh, that, like we did that, like humans did that differently than animals. Like, animals, like are different in that regard. So it is kind of like a strange, um,
Yeah.
like just, I don't know. I think, yeah, I read this one thing where it talked about when humans, like early humans were pretty unremarkable as far as like how they, like when, like there were, I think like Neanderthal, if you think of like those sort of, um, like they're kind of like the other animals, like kind of existed like the other animals and that sort of thing. But then like something happened and like, oh, okay, now that they have these big brains and they do that sort of stuff. So it's just kind of, you know, it's fascinating. I'm not like, like I feel like it's
So,
really interesting to me, and I wish that I like, I don't know, like knew chemistry more and knew biology more.
mhm.
Like I don't know,
Yeah.
like if you ever think this way, Ricky, as far as like, oh man, if I was, like I don't know, if I was going, like in college again, would I like, would I be like, okay, I'm going to study, whatever, evolutionary biology. I'm going to study chemistry. Like, I don't know. I don't know if I could do that very well, but I'm like, it's more like a what if. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I got you. Yeah. Man, it's so interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I have a few things that I think about too is what like because when I think about evolution too, I think like, if we came from say monkeys or apes or something like that,
Yeah.
then why are they still here?
Yeah.
That's one thing I thought of. And then why do we wear clothes? Just
Yeah.
like random stuff like that. Of like it's so weird. It
Hmm.
does seem like quite a disconnect. So
Yeah.
I don't know. I've just always been curious about this.
Well, and I like, I don't necessarily like have all the answers other than like the thing that struck me was like how, um, almost like I don't want to say like um like how when things like sort of when animals evolve, it's like it's not really for like there's not necessarily a rhyme or reason to it. Like I think
Uh-huh.
they believe that like wings on animals like just started out as like a bump on, like a bump that like
Uh-huh.
changed the aerodynamics, and so they were able to do
Yeah.
certain things, jump farther or whatever it is, and then like so that evolved over millions of years to be like a bigger bump, and then like and then wings evolved. Like and there's just like really
Yeah.
strange random things that
Yeah.
like you have these, I don't know, like I don't know, a random bug, and it's like just, like it's, I don't know, it's just really interesting how this stuff sort of can be put together. I don't know. I
Yeah.
wish I knew more about it.
Yeah. Well, it's just fascinating to ponder. That's why
Yeah.
like I wanted to hear your viewpoint on it because
Hmm.
it's one of those things. It's wild to fathom because it's just one of those questions.
Yeah.
So
Try like driving. I highly recommend um, driving late at night. While you're not tired, you may have coffee with you, and then like I listen to audiobooks or whatever about stuff like that,
mhm.
and like really like those sort of things really make you like ponder, and you're like in your car late at night. Like
Mhm.
that's great.
Yeah.
Pondering big things while late at night in your car.
Same. I know. Pondering's the
Hmm.
best.
still,
I still
but
like.
being completely safe with it. Like, yeah.
Okay, so what are you doing for fun currently?
Oh, shoot, I don't know, Ricky. I don't know about you, but like I do stuff. I work. I like have kid stuff, like you know whatever kid activities we're in. I'll do that. I don't really do much fun stuff. Oh, the only thing I do for fun is probably the running stuff. Like I'll run,
Running.
and that's my kind of like me time. So yeah, I mean that's fun. That's what I go run. And oftentimes I run at night, and oftentimes I put music in, and I go and I listen to music and go run. So that's what I do for fun.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay. So
Mm-hmm.
then, so we only have a few questions left. Are you ready?
Yeah. Yeah.
So this is one of my favorite
All
ones.
right.
So we talked about a bunch today. So if we were to create a story from when you were born to now, what would that story be called?
Um, I don't know. I think it's one of those things where I don't think I'm very remarkable. And like I can like like John did this. Like it wouldn't be that kind of story where it'd be like here's the one thing that John did. So it'd probably be like some descriptor thing. I don't know. Like it'd be like what is the storytelling adage? It'd be like it's all about the details, right? So it'd be like a detail. I don't know, like good taste in music or something. I don't know. It would be like some little part of me that explains more, which is probably my taste in music.
Okay. So what are we calling it?
A great taste in music guy. I don't
I guess
know.
a great taste in music guy.
Yeah, that's it.
Is that what we're going
That's
with?
all I can come up with.
Okay.
We've been going for like a couple hours now, I think. So I'm gonna go with that.
A great taste in music guy. Okay, sweet.
What is the other answer that you do? People have good answers for that? Are people able to
Uh,
sum up their life in a pithy title?
yeah, yeah.
Ah,
Some of
darn
them
it.
do. And that's what the thumbnail always is for the video. So that's gonna be the
Oh
thumbnail
no.
for this video, unless you want to change it.
Great. Oh no. Handsome something or other, Ricky. I don't know.
Yeah, we had here. I'll just go back for the last two. The last one we had was called "Thrive from Survival to Success."
Hmm.
The one before that was called "The Journey." Uh, what else we got?
Put like like pondering late at night or something like like that. Like that seems to I don't know. Stay up late at night pondering things. I don't know. Driving late at
Okay.
night.
I mean, these all have such great rings to it, John.
You're mocking me, Ricky. I don't know.
I just expected you're such a creative guy. I just expected something a little different, I guess.
Yeah, that's me. Right when you expect me to be creative, I hit a wall.
Okay, so we have the options are a great taste in music guy, and then what's the other one you said?
Um, pondering late at night guy.
Pondering late at night. Okay, which one do you like better? Pondering late at night guy.
Yeah, do that one. Do that
Pondering late at night guy.
one.
I just like that they're all ending with guy at the end. That's the best part. Uh, Pondering late at night guy. Okay, cool. Okay, you sold on that?
Yeah, I guess.
Is that your final answer?
Regrettably so. That's all I got.
Okay. Is that the title? Regrettably so. That's all I got.
I like it. I like it. Regrettably
I'm
with John Young. Here we go. Let's we're regretting this whole thing so far.
It was all going good until I had to come up with this name for a story.
And I regretted the whole thing. That's what it is.
Then I regretted
Regretting the whole thing with John Young.
it. Is that what we're calling it?
It's your call. Whatever you like best, Ricky.
So, hey, this is your episode. So, pondering late at night guy.
Okay,
Is that it?
I'm good. Yep, I like that.
Okay, pondering late at night guy. Okay, people are gonna be like, okay, let me tune into that. What is that?
Seems like he'd be a smart guy. Boy, was I disappointed with that one.
The ponderer.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. I like it. Okay,
I
so
don't know
now
if
we
you do,
got
Ricky. I don't know if you do.
dude, I like all the titles anybody comes up with because it's fitting, right? So
Yeah,
like it fits our episodes. So
that's
that's why I
true.
like it's all good. Okay, so let's see. We got two more left. So this is kind of your, time to shine. So this is like the part of the episode where you get to share whatever you want. So if there's a topic you want to cover, if you want to share your socials, a project you're working on, this is kind of like that time. So use it if you want.
I don't really have too much. I'm not a super public guy and a lot of that stuff.
Mhm.
I used to I don't know if you're this way, Ricky. Like I used to, and like with your music is what I'm thinking of. Like I used to be really, like I went to, I studied film at university. And I was like, oh, maybe I'll make something of myself and really, um, I don't know, impact, the world with my
Mhm.
work and that sort of thing. And I don't really have interest in impacting the world with my work anymore. Like I think it's
Yeah.
like totally fine to just like, I'm very content with my life and I just kind of want to do that stuff. So I don't have, um, like I do a little bit of social media. Like I connect with like running, stuff on social media, but that's kind of about it. So I don't know. I don't have anything
Uh,
to plug or promo or anything like that.
okay,
So
that's totally
yeah,
fine. See, if I didn't have this podcast, I wouldn't be on social either,
yeah.
probably. So, yeah, I'm just not that type of guy either. I just don't really care for social media, and this is the only
Well,
reason why
and
I'm on it.
I do some social stuff for work, and I do like some like social stuff for running.
Uh,
Like there's a little bit of like, you know, uh, connecting with different people and like learning from different like running stuff that I don't, because I don't.
yeah.
I mean, I live in kind of a smaller uh town now, but like I don't run with anybody or anything like that. So
Yeah.
I do connect with a little bit with some of that stuff, and so I'll like take a picture at the end of my run of like here's my stats or that sort of thing. So I do that. I mean it's good for that, but I don't really find it super necessary in a lot of that stuff, except for work stuff. Like we have to do that stuff for
Yeah.
work. So yeah, sometimes you gotta put on the show.
Yeah, you're in marketing.
I know. Yeah, I know.
It's like social media is
Well,
terrible.
but
Yeah.
there's something nice about being able to like, okay, I'm doing it for this reason versus like,
Yeah,
the other
exactly.
thing, and then I can stop doing it. Like there's a clear line between
Yep.
work and not work, and so there's a clear line between social and I don't care about, social media. So that's kind of nice.
Yeah. I like that.
Yeah.
Okay. So this is the last part. So this is where you get to answer the last guest question, and then you get to make up one for the
Oh,
next
okay.
guest. So this will be totally spontaneous.
Okay. Do I know
Are
the
you ready?
person who gave this question?
You don't.
Okay.
Okay. So this question is, thinking about your childhood, what would make your inner child happy?
Um, that's a tough one. But that's a good one, man. Okay. Um, I think I still, I mean, I don't know if it sounds that way from our conversation, but I still think like as an adult, I have a lot of fun. Like I play with
Hmm.
my kids all the time and we do, fun stuff. And so I think like that would probably make my, like that's my inner child is like connecting with my actual child that lives,
Yeah.
actual children that live in my house. Like we play stuff. I watch kid movies and stuff. So we cry all the time about that, Ricky, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think that's like I still feel like I don't know, like a lot of I feel like having like being a parent like puts you in touch with your kid self a lot because you're like I don't know, you're figuring things out with your kid, it's the same
Yeah.
sort of thing. So you're like, all right, well, it's the same sort of stuff. So I kind of think I like I'd say the parent angle is probably like that's what keeps me connected with like kid stuff.
Yeah, I can see that. That makes sense because I've done that too with her. It's just like, she's into shows or kid shows, and all of a sudden I'm like, well, this kid show that I used to watch when I was younger.
Yeah.
Let's put this on and watch that. And,
Well,
sometimes it's a hit, sometimes it's a miss,
yeah.
but
Well, like
yeah,
when was like if we didn't have kids, Ricky, when would we go like sledding? Like, would you like as an adult just like I'm gonna go sled? I'm gonna go sled on a hill. No, you
no,
have
no,
kids and they're like, all right, we're gonna go do this fun stuff, guys. Let's go do it. Like that's what's fun about like you get to sort of relive that stuff as a parent. Like we're gonna go
yeah,
do this fun stuff and slide down a hill.
that's fair. So sledding, no. But I would probably do most of the stuff. If I didn't have Rachel, I would still probably do kid stuff. That's just how I've always been. I've been like that person.
Like I'm gonna go I don't know, do the obstacle course or something, right?
Oh yeah, exactly.
I guess
That would
that
be
sounds
me.
like you. Yeah, I guess that sounds like
Like
you.
I'm gonna do the obstacle course. We go climb some trees. We jump out of swings.
Yeah.
I still do that.
do, do you have a like we have a swing in our backyard and I don't swing on it. I should probably
Yep.
swing on it
I
more.
always swing and I get it as high as it'll go and then I jump out. That's like my thing. The only thing is I've done so well, and the last time I did it, I hurt my hip flexor,
That's when
and
the
it
like
took way.
reality comes cold
Well, it
splash of
took for
water. Yeah.
it's crazy because I was doing it nonstop and it was awesome. And then the last time I did that, and then that was like a 4 month recovery because that affected my low
Yeah.
back, which affected other
What?
things. And I was like, that's stupid, but I'm not going to stop. I
So
care.
when you hurt yourself and then people ask Ricky why are you limping? Did you tell them like I was swinging too hard?
Dude, I told them exactly what happened. I was like, you want to know what happened? I was jumping out of a swing and I was trying to impress my nephew.
And I was
Yeah. And
old swinging injury. Darn it.
exactly. Well, I guess that wasn't the last time I've done it. I've done it since, but I don't know. You're making me want to go out and jump out of a swing right
Yeah,
now.
that's the fun part.
Exactly.
Oh.
So, and then see, and I feel like that's what I like to do is like, feel like even as an adult, like I like to unlock that in other people,
Yeah.
like adults, right?
Hmm.
Because I think we do that. We grow up and we tend to not have fun. And
Yeah.
like, for me, it's just always like, have some fun.
Or
Like,
like
you know,
passive fun, like having passive fun, like whatever you go to a movie and you sit and watch or something like that. Like
yeah,
that's
yeah,
fun, but it's very passive stuff. Like kids are like the best conduit to like active. Like let's go do something. Like that's
yeah.
yeah,
It's like we learn to be like mature and grown up, and it's like, that's not real.
yeah.
You know what I mean?
Hmm.
I don't know. I just, yeah, I think people lose touch of it. And then, when people start getting into it again, you start figuring it out, but
Hmm.
it's kind of cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, okay. So now, what question do you want to leave the next guest?
Um. So I was thinking of like what
Oops.
you there? Sorry, drop the phone.
It's
Like,
no,
I'm done.
this is
I'm done.
what a professional podcast just right now. Phone dies and I just dropped my
Once
phone.
you heard my title, you were like, I'm done with this.
It's like, okay, that's what type of podcast this is.
I think like my question was like the art that you like. Well, like what art do you like, and what does that say about you? That was my thing.
Oh.
Maybe it even doesn't have to be art. Like what thing do you like, and what does it say about you that you like that thing?
Okay, so do you want to keep art in there or do you not?
Yes, yes.
I was gonna say, I was like, I liked art being in there. So
All right.
when you were saying it doesn't have to be art,
If
I was gonna like,
put art in there, and then if the person on, if they like different things other than art, then put the things in there.
yeah,
That's what a professional podcaster would do, I think.
yeah, I'm gonna assume. I'm gonna say, you know what, this guy's not artistic. I'm not gonna drop this
Yeah.
question. What would I be thinking?
You'll come up with a better one, probably.
No, that's perfect.
Mm,
Sweet.
yeah.
So this is good, John. So I'm glad you got to hop on the podcast.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm glad we got to have this conversation because it's like moments like these where like, I see you, we have little chatter here and there, but it's cool to actually get to know you. So, and actually I think these questions help elicit that, which is cool.
No, I had fun, Ricky. That was a lot of fun. So it was good. Thanks for having me. I thought it was
Good. Well, thanks for being a guest.
fun.
So I'm looking forward to seeing you whenever I see you.
See you in the office, Ricky.
Okay, see you in the office.